Tim Marlowe from GeoNovus Media, and he's going to explain to you and to me right now exactly how does the movie business work. I've had a lot of questions. People are asking me, where do you make money in the movie business? Who makes money? How does it all work? So I'm lucky to be sitting here with an Academy Award winner.
Thank you.
And so One Take Tim, they call him. And he's going to show us exactly how the money is made in the film business.
Okay, so looking at there's multiple facets in how to make revenue from the film business, and it's part of the reason why a lot of people get caught up in the business. They get caught up in the hype and the emotion, and they raise capital for a film without doing the due diligence and not realizing.
Which is why it's got sort of a name as a risky
Correct.
business.
Absolutely, but where I come from, which is School of Hard Knocks, doing this for several decades now, I've come to a formula that the studios use, the successful independent studios use, all of that they know that when they make a film, they're not only just getting their money back, they're also having a built-in profit before they shoot 1 second.
Before they even shoot it.
1 second of film, they already know roughly what they're going to make, worst case scenario. So what I want to show you quickly is the formula, how that formula works, why we don't get ourselves into risky ventures, making risky films, and exposing our investors to potential losses. This allows us to expose ourselves to projects that we make money on, and we still have that ability that if we do get a hit, it can blow up and we could do quite well.
Really do well.
Right. So just for basic formula here, I'm just going to start off and say we had $1 million. So if we had $1 million, just pure equity, that's $1 million investment.
And that's one of the reasons that a public entity is really valuable for someone in the film and entertainment business,
Right.
is to get that, interest rates and trying to get money from
Cash
banks.
is king
and,
in the film business,
and
for sure.
so a public market is definitely the way to do it. And there's other companies, Relativity Media and Dream, they're all public for a reason, right? So, all right, we got $1 million.
Right.
What are
so
we
$1 million in actual equity, what that's going to equate to is that you're going to get yourself around a $2 million project. The kind of safe margin in this business is anywhere from $1 million to about $5 million, and that means that with right cast, the right project, you're getting your money back through your sales. You're not having any issues where you're putting yourself in. We've made a movie for $5 million and we've gotten back $1.5 million. We're now $3.5 million in the hole. That's not going to happen in this scenario. So let's just start off with $1 million equity. What that $1 million equity is going to buy us, it's going to get us approximately a $2 million feature. And the reason that we have a $2 million feature is we're going to cast up that picture. So first we're going to find a title that would be attractive to at least one A-lister. So we tend to look in the genres of thriller, horror, action, stay away potentially from dramas, stay away from comedies. They can be successful, but in the business, the majority of them are not. They lose money. So you focus on the genres.
You find the audience.
Exactly. Then what we do is with that $1 million equity, it allows us to go and make offers to actors. So we can find a script that works. So let's just say, for example, a Steven Seagal movie, which we tend to work with. So a Steven Seagal movie, we then have $1 million in the bank to show his agent that we can finance this. Right, we can finance this movie. So we'd like to make an offer to Steven Seagal. Yeah. So we make him an offer as an actor to the script that we choose as a group based on our past history. Once we make him an offer and we prove that we have the money to make that offer, he then accepts the offer as a pay-or-play deal, which means that he gets paid once we go into production. We then go and we take that Steven Seagal name, we take the script, obviously, we put together for him, and we go and we pre-sell some territories. So it really works as there's two main territories. So you have your North America, and then you have your whole world. That's the way it's structured right now. North America is Canada and the US, and then of course the world just being every other territory. Depending on your actor, you want to focus on specific territories. Steven happens to be a very, very good foreign sales actor.
So in Europe and places like
that. Right. So his value worldwide, you can probably, I know for our last project, you can get a pre-sale at a world for 2.5. So that means you can go to a company like Fortitude or Anchor Bay or Voltage, who's a foreign sales agency, and say, I have a Steven movie. I want to give you the first option to buy this movie from us for $2.5 million. They acquire the rights, the majority of it. They take maybe 85% of the film. You still have some ownership in the movie, but you lose most of it because you're pre-selling. But remember, our $1 million is buying us a $2 million movie, and I'll explain how that comes to $2 million. So what we do is we want to sell our pre-sell our foreign territory, or we can just simply take, you know, we can take an MG, which is less, so they can say, well, instead of pre-buying that for 2.5, we'll give you a minimum guarantee for 1.75. So it's less money, but it means that when we're finished the movie, we don't have to take his guarantee. But what it does mean, worst case scenario, if the movie's horrible after we shoot it, we can sell it to 1.75. Now you think, why would we lose 750 and just take the 2.5? Because if the movie's good and it screens well to the markets, that 2.5 could now become potentially $7–8 million, because instead of pre-selling, you're now actually marketing your finished project to every single territory. They're going to pay more money for it.
Yeah.
So you're not pre-selling and giving up a project that you have no idea what it's going to look for. And with Stevens, for example, Stevens movies tend to do quite well foreign. So to start, we tend to try and be really safe. So we want to focus on our pre-sale foreign, keep your domestic, your US, Canada open. Traditionally, again, for Steven Seagal, he takes about $750 out of domestic. So his name's not quite as large domestic, but it's decent for foreign. So you can do the math. You know, you're looking at $3.25 million for a Steven movie. We make the movie for between $2 and $3 million traditionally for Steven Seagal's projects. So let's just look at this one as being a $2 million project. The reason why the million buys us $2 million is pretty simple. So we're going to take our budget, which is going to be $2 million, we're going to bring it to Canada. And we're going to shoot it here in Vancouver. So what we're going to do is we're going to shoot it in Vancouver. We're going to collect tax credits on that, which equate to about between 25 and 33% of the project. The government gives you as an incentive to shoot your project, hire local people here, use, you know, to support the local film business. So that's going to add 25 to 30% of our budget, not the million equity, but the actual budget that we have, which is around $2 million. So you're just doing rough math, it's 250. So you're going to get between 500 and what, 650 as a tax credit. We can now take that tax credit and we can bank it. We can go to the bank and borrow that. So now we have, so let's just say we borrow 620, we end up getting 550 after fees. Now our million is, we have $1.5 million. So now we need 450 odd thousand to cover that. That's when we all sit and discuss, okay, do we want to take the pre-sale, or do we want to go with maybe a 1.75 minimum guarantee when we finish the film, and then we pre-sell some small territories. So we need to come up with 450 grand. We could go sell, for example, Germany and say Spain and France. Those 3 territories should net us about 500. So,
and you have the contacts for these people?
Oh, absolutely. This is all through, I mean, this is part of our system. This is why, you know, what the value in is having us come on board and produce these together. So we sell those 3 territories for, say, 500,000. We put that into our project. We now have our well, I guess we have a little more, $2,050,000 to make the movie. We shoot the movie. Great thing about the tax credits is the government gives us that money. We pay off the bank loan with that money when it comes in from the government. It's not money we have to recoup. The only money we have to pay back is that, which is the initial investment. That's the only thing that's couped back. So at that point, we then screen the movie when we finish producing it. We have either a pre-sale of $750 for domestic, or like what just happened in the case of our last Steven movie, we got some limited theatrical release, and potentially it could do a lot more. It could do several million.
So let me ask you this: is this going to, regardless whether it goes into theaters or not?
This is all based on just simply premium video on demand, DVD, Netflix. These are just video sales. This has nothing to do with theatrical. Okay. So theatrical is a whole different monster. Potentially, can it go theatrical? Yes, my absolution is going theatrical, which was not the intention when we started. But this is how we offset all the costs. It may seem a little complicated, but it's quite simple. I mean, you know, once you have your actor, you have the script attached, you know you have the money in the bank, at least half, so you can make offers. We can structure it, and this formula works up to $12 million bucks. Once you start going above 12 million, it's too hard to get the foreign and the domestic numbers to cover those, and then you have to have a studio get involved. Yeah. So we can still do a movie above 12 million. We can do movies that are 20 million.
Really big name actors.
Yeah, like if you had a Brad Pitt or George Clooney, or you had Brad Cooper movie, and the budget was 22, we could still do this, but we'd have to have a studio involved. And then what it does is the studio would then give you the backing. A studio would say, well, we'll commit 10, 15 million in P&A, we'll commit, a domestic deal for 15 million. It's all based on who's in it. The reason why I stay with the Stevens is because traditionally Stevens movies, we know his titles make anywhere from 5 to 9 million on a regular basis. So as long as you're in that, under that market by at least 20, 30%, you know you're going to make money every single time based on these figures before you even go and shoot the film.
Right, and
So
if it goes to theater, it's a bonus.
That's all extra. Yeah, and then that's usually, if it goes to theater, you pick up a studio partner, you pick up a theater release partner. We ourselves can put it in theaters. It's about $1,000 a theater usually. So you can do a small release and kind of test the market and see how successful it might be, and then put some money into advertising. But by then, you usually, you're dealing with a studio, and at that point, this all becomes a moot point because
What's the average length of time it takes to actually shoot, produce, and have a finished product?
I've had some of them turn around as quick as 12 months, and some of them can take as much as 24 months. So, and the reason why the difference between the 12 and the 24 months is because what can happen, for example, is you can cast an actor that may have been hot when you put the movie together, and you didn't take pre-sales, and you didn't take you didn't cover your exposure because you wanted to take a bit more of a risk, and maybe that name dies down. So you kind of want to wait till the market gets back into it, you get the right sales. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but traditionally you can turn these around in about 12 months.
And then there's special effects and things like that.
Oh, all of that. Yeah, I mean, all of that goes into the more you can add production value, the bigger you can make the movie, the more you can
So for the average investor that's looking at any one of these projects that we're going to be producing, and the company as a whole, what would you say would be the average return on one of these?
We tend to try, just based on provens and what we've done, we like to say very comfortably we can do 30% as a return within that investment period. You can have them certainly be higher, and we've had, a Steven movie that did 1,000% return over 2 years. We've had, movies that do 200-300%. I mean, when we talk about these numbers, when I go through this is all worst case scenario. This isn't best case scenario. This is worse. So that means that if the movie's horrible, these are the numbers we get. We're still looking at approximately, $750,000 to $1.5 million in profit based on a worst case scenario. And it's all based on how low you can shoot it for, how big of an actor you can get, and obviously your pre-sales and what you're holding out for. We always tend to try and focus on the foreign, keep the domestic open. Unless we.
And how many projects can you put,
we do
let's say in the hopper?
12 to 15 a year through our
Wow.
backlot, the universe backlot there.
So worst case scenario, that's a pretty good return.
Well, this is exactly what I want to do with us. Is I want to get the same model built up so that we know that we can every month we have a project that's cycling. So once we get to that point where we're greenlighting a project at the beginning of the month, the end of the month we're collecting on revenue from a project we did a year ago. So
now we have Netflix. Everyone knows about Netflix, and now there's HBO Now.
Oh, there's Amazon, Netflix, Redbox. I mean, yeah, they're just growing and growing. Hulu.
Internet royalties as opposed to DVD royalties.
Sure. Yep. I mean, like Netflix, their deals. We have a pretty decent deal with Netflix, but their deals are based on who your cast is, what kind of exposure it got. Was it a theatrical movie? Was it a straight-to-DVD movie? Those deals can be small amounts of money, or they can be quite large. Some of the larger studios have great Netflix deals. So,
what's the average now? We're also talking about acquiring titles, and you
Correct.
mentioned acquiring titles. You've got people that, why would someone want to give up their title for one thing, and second of all, how available are some of these titles for us?
Well, I mean, the average title tends to generate about $1 million in residual income over its lifetime. So,
what would a lifetime
and the
be?
reason that be, so when we talk about these deals, when I say, we did a pre-sale for foreign here, we did a pre-sale for domestic, there's term limits to these. So, for example, a foreign deal could be anywhere from 3 years to as much as 15 years. And what that means is after that option expires, so say in the average, 7 to 10 years is what we do a deal for. So after that option expires, we have to they would renew with us. If they don't renew with us, we take it to somebody else. And what the renew process is every time you see a film on TV, whether it's Charlie Chaplin or it's Easy Rider from this, from the 70s, or it's any movie in the 90s, Home Alone, for example. I mean, I can't imagine the repeats that gets at Christmas time.
Incredible. Christmas movies
they're still getting paid out. They're getting paid out by the networks, and the wherever it gets broadcast, they have to pay a royalty to. I mean, Charlie Chaplin's estate still collects royalties on Charlie Chaplin movies from 100 years ago. So when you have this title, you're creating a piece of real estate that you own for life.
It's an asset.
Right, it's an asset, and it acquires wealth. And if you end up getting lucky and one of your movies becomes a cult film, or really tends to be like a Christmas movie, for example, that becomes cult classic and they watch it, well, you can imagine what those royalties are going to be. They're going to be quite, quite nice. Yeah. You're already out of the investment by the time we've delivered the movie. So, because we've already known we protected it. Now, as we grow as a company, when we start putting our slates together and we have our 10 slate, we can protect 8 of them and keep a couple of them where we do take a bit more risk, which means we don't pre-sell. We just try and use our own intuition based on our past experience of what we have done, because now we can afford to take a risk based on offsetting it over cross-collateralizing and all those slate films. Yeah. And then if it does take off, we own all of it. So if it does take off, the company makes all the profit. You're not sharing it up with all, because if you pre-sell, obviously that's the numbers that you're looking to get with a small, overage percentage in there. So you're not going to see a lot of it. But if you don't pre-sell and you can afford to take the risk, then we can go territory to territory, sell these things based on the popularity of the movie. Your $1.7 million MG could be offset by, $5 or $6 million in sales or more. And then if it's theatrical, it's a whole,
out there
numerous examples. I mean, Little Miss Sunshine, Crash, Paranormal Activity. You could just go on and on.
There's another one, and on. There seems to be a lot that just, it's not unlike a YouTube video going viral. When somebody catches on to something, sometimes it takes a little while for it to catch on, but when it does, it becomes really popular. And sometimes even creates franchises.
The reality of that, though, is that for every one you hear of, there's 100 that didn't. Yeah. And that is why we do this formula. That is why we protect ourselves. That's why we don't put ourselves in a position, because 90% of most filmmakers are very emotionally attached to their project. It's their whole life, and it's exactly what they look at. Okay, Little Miss Sunshine blew up, became theatrical, had a huge ROI on it. But I mean, there's 1,000 of them that didn't. And all those guys are all chasing after that, and they didn't follow this formula. And they end up losing money.
You won an Academy Award for a documentary.
Correct.
How does a documentary fit into this equation, or does it?
Well, it doesn't traditionally at all. No. Documentaries tend to, let me correct myself. Documentaries traditionally in the past tend to have not been done for profit. But in today's market, things have changed a lot. Now what's happening is you've got this very young, quick,
my daughter comes
low
to me,
attention
Dad,
rate.
Do you want to watch a documentary tonight? We watch probably more documentaries on Sunday night than we do feature films now, because she's interested.
That's the new trend, right?
The 20-somethings are interested in learning things.
Right.
Blackfish is one of them, and different films like that. Of course, Food Matters and those types of movies. But no, you're absolutely right.
But 10 years ago, that was not the norm. No. That was not traditional.
Well, we didn't. I don't remember watching documentaries back there, unless it was CBC or something.
They were a little harder. They're a little more obscure. Now with Netflix and all these different websites and YouTube and
we never
Vimeo,
had the access.
Yeah, the access is out there, and it's getting to the point where now you can put together a profitable documentary. That's exactly what we're doing. Is we're also putting it together. That was not the norm, but it is. This is starting to become a bit more of a format for docs, but this was not traditionally how they were done. You certainly can't command these kind of numbers from a documentary, but then that being said, documentaries are done at 1/10 of the cost.
Talk really quickly before we wrap up here about the competition in the landscape. There's other, companies out there. We've mentioned Lionsgate. We've talked a little bit about Relativity Media, and what is the competition landscape out there? And is obviously, just by looking at the hunger out there, people are binge watching House of Cards, Game of Thrones, all these types of sort of television serial type of shows. It seems to be they can't get enough content.
You just basically answered your own question. So what it is now is that as the internet grows, as the awareness grows, we're getting more and more exposure to more and more people, and population's over 7 billion people now. A lot of these third world countries are really developing up.
People can watch them on
they can watch them on their cell phones, tablets. I mean, numerous different ways to watch content now. We're getting to a point where the infrastructure really isn't there to meet the content demands. So when you talk about competition, well, there really isn't any competition for us unless you're looking at competing with a specific genre film where we make a Christmas movie and we're out against another big blockbuster Christmas movie. That's our competition. Yeah. But as far as content, we can create content until we're all old and gray men, and we're not going to keep up to what's the demand out there.
I don't think you can. I mean, if you can only do 12 You know,
We want
let's
to do
say in a
20.
year.
We'd like to do 20 in a year. We could do that efficiently, profitably, and we could keep that going. You know, we're a very, very successful company, and we're still taking some exposure risks where we do go after that big, you know, let's hope we get a crash or a Little Miss Sunshine, or you know, the goal
And
of
I
which
think
is
with
paranormal
the
activity.
ability to be accessible, more scripts, more talent, special effects are getting better and better every year. New technology. There's an appetite in the marketplace for good films, for good stories, for good content, television, and I think that as a creator, as a producer, that there's an opportunity for young new talent and people coming out of film schools, and the playing field seems to be less tilted than it used to be. There's more of an opportunity for people to really, like you mentioned, they get attached and passionate about their films. We have an opportunity where we can really bring some of this new talent together and give them a vehicle based on obviously being a public entity to be able to do that.
We're still sticking with the foundation of knowing what works, but
That's right. Well, we're
you know,
reviewing
also
scripts right now.
exactly, yeah, and looking at, you know, obviously we're also in the music sector. All these things they combine well with film, because think about any movie you watch today that doesn't have music in it or some form.
Expand on that a little bit. People have asked me, and I already know the answer to this, but I think just for benefit of the viewers, where is the money made in the music business these days, and with respect to films specifically?
Well, specifically, I can answer, you know, to film. I mean, film is just like you hire your actors and you pay them your money and you pay them royalties. Well, the film, you know, when you put a song in, and music, which is obviously important, and you have a named song in there, well, there's an obligation of that film to obviously pay the songwriter.
Yeah.
But then you also, just like we get our renewals, well, those royalties get renewed with the films as well. So every time the film's shown, there's a certain royalty paid to that writer based on the term and the contract we come to an agreement with. So just like it's playing on the radio, it's playing on a film. Where we're trying to capitalize on that is we're trying to capture the marketing opportunity with the film and the music. So now the traditional way is to launch is launch a song through radio and the internet and iTunes and all that. We can use the film as a vehicle too to launch that. If the film comes successful, then our tend to be is that the song that made the cut for the film is going to be successful as well. I mean, that's the whole goal of it.
And there's a lot of examples out there that we could go, but if we had more time. So in the music business, the scoring of the films, the creation of the content, what about, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, was web TV and the internet-only type of products that are out there. I see this as being a really fast-moving, exciting opportunity for filmmakers, for musicians, for writers, to almost have marketing and the content marketing from an advertising or a niche point of view. So for example, you create specific shows, not unlike the cable networks have done, where they've got the home and garden and they've got the different types of things. There's a real opportunity because we're starting to see such a vast amount of consumers out there who are looking for a certain type of film. And
well, that's where we're going. It's demand television, demand watching, demand, you know, content. You want to see something that you're in the mood for right now. You know, the days of when we were young, flipping through the channels trying to find a project that we enjoyed watching is gone. I mean, that's really not there anymore.
We want it now, and we want
it's
it
there
instantly.
Yeah,
And
whether it's
we want
documentary or feature.
the entire series all in one go.
Right, and we want to cater to that. That's the whole point of what we're doing. I mean, this is just one small aspect, as you know, of what we're doing. We want to also be on that cutting edge of whatever tech is coming out, so that we're always there to be able to deliver that technology.
It's fantastic. Anyway, this is Colin and Tim from GeoNovus Media, and if you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@geonovusmedia.com, and we'd be happy to answer that. Make sure you join our VIP club, because we have some goodies in there and some information, and you can always be updated on what things are coming up and what things are happening. And you can do that by going to the website geonovusmedia.com. Thanks, Tim.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right.